want to transfer everything we have here into our pattern picker. So for our hip length, which is the proportion, our hip length is 7.5. Knee length from the waist, of course, from the waist to our hip length is 7.5. From the waist to our knee length is 26.5. So from the waist, our waist around waist, which is circumference, is 27. Our hip is 36.5. Those are the measurements we need for this. Since it's not a padded skirt, if you are sewing a padded skirt or if you want to cut padded skirt, the measurement will be more than this. So now, once you transfer it into our pattern paper, after which you transfer it to your fabric. So help us with this. So now, what we need here is for our knee length, we have 26. So we have 26 here. Since we are sewing a band skirt or a banded skirt, a skirt that we have band, of course. So let's say our band is 2 inches, 2 inches band. So of course, we measured it from the top band down to the skirt length. So now we have to subtract this 2 inches, which will be taken from here eventually from our total measurement, because we still add this 2-inch band to our skirt that we got to cut now. So when we subtract 2 inch from it, minus 2, that will give us 24. And of course, we still have to add another 2 inches. Why? Because we'll add ½ inch at the upper part to join our skirts with our band, and at the lower part we'll use 1.5 inch to turn it in, to turn our skirts in, so that of course the rough edge of our skirt won't be shown, to be neat at the edge. For it is called hemming allowance, to hem it in. You can either use your hemming gum or you sew it or use a lining to turn it in. So anyone decides to use. So now we are making use of 1.5 inch. We are making use of ½ inch, making 2 inch. So we have to add our 2 inch, so that will give us 26. Back to our 26. We subtracted this for the band. We are adding this for sewing allowance. Thank you. So now let's measure our 26. Make sure your fabric is up to 26 centimeters. We'll need for this measurement. This is a peculiar measurement. If your client is taller or not as tall as this or fatter than this, you won't be able to use this measurement. This measurement is just this class or this it is just to give you an idea of how to cut a pencil skirt. You are not to use this on every fabric. Once your length of the fabric is up to the length you need, so you mark every other proportion you need. So the next thing to mark now is our hip line. Okay, since we are adding a band, so now you place your tape rule. You place it on 1.5. You can see 1.5. Don't be confused. There was a graphic on the table, so don't be confused. You place your tape rule at the edge of your clothes, 1.5 at the edge of your clothes, because there will still be a 2-inch band on this skirt to be attached to the skirt. So you place your tape rule on 1.5. This half will be used for the upper joint. The one I said you should add to it. So like this. Okay. So once you place it like this, so now you measure your hip line. Our hip line is 7.5. Then our skirt length is 26. So this 1.5 we have here is the 1.5 I said we'll add for our hemming allowance. So let's repeat this measurement all over. So here we have 7.5. And here we have 26. So you get a straight line just to guide you. Okay. So now the next thing to do now is to fold our fabric. Of course, the first thing you have to do, sorry for that, because there's a ground paper. That's why I didn't measure that at first. But if you are marking your measurements directly on the fabric, if it's not done on a brown paper or a pattern paper, the first thing you have to do is to fold your measurements, fold your fabric by the hip or the part that's the part that has the most measurements. And from those two measurements we have, from this waist and the hip, we have 36.5, we have 27.5. So the one that is more is our hip. So if you are marking your measurements, or if you are cutting directly on your fabric, you have to first fold by your hip allowance. Since you are cutting the skirts, hip allowance, so you fold it by your hip allowance. And how to calculate that is, here we have 36.5 divided by 4. That will give us 9 and 1/8. 9 and 1/8. Since the skirt will be having a lining, if you have to turn it by with a lining, you add 2 inches just to have enough allowance. But if it's a red-made skirt, if it's an English material, all you need is just 1 inch. And for some people, they only add ½ inch. If it's all this red-made, by the time you turn it, the allowance you see, there might not be more than maybe 1/4 or ½ inch. So it all depends on what you want. So for an Ankara style, for an Ankara skirt, for instance, let's add our 2 inch to it. 2 inch. So that will give us 11 and 1/8. 11 and 1/8. So since we are adding to it 2 inches, we can just move this 1/8. We add it together. 1/8 is less than quarter. We added 2 inch for sewing allowance. That's because we want to add lining to our fabric. We want to turn it in with lining. So that will give us 11 inches. So now moving to our hip. This is our hip length. This is our waist. This is our skirt length. This is hemming allowance. So moving to our hip. This is our hip length. This is our waist. This is our skirt length. This is our hemming allowance. Moving to our hip, we said we're making use of 11. So like I said earlier, if you are cutting directly on your fabric, you fold your fabric into 2 by the measurement. Like this 11 that we have now, you fold your fabric by 11. That's after adding your sewing allowance. You fold this by 11. So since we are doing it directly on our pattern paper, all we just need to do is to get a straight line from here. So this guide us around to a straight line. Okay, so from this straight line, let's measure our 11. So this 11 here. The width is 27.5. 28 is 7. So we just plus 2. And of course, okay, we still have that allowance. Let's agree that this is our 7. This is our 7. This is our 2 for sewing allowance. We'll still add 1 inch for our darts allowance. So making 10. Making 10 inches. 10 inches. So here we have 11. For us to get a pencil skirt, it depends on how pencil you want it to be. You can either come down by 2 here, or you come down by 1.5, or you come down by more than that. I'll just come down by, since we have 11 here, I'll come down by 1.5 here. So 11 minus 1.5, that will give me 9.5. 9.5. So here, we just plant it. So here, let's add 10. So by the time we fold the fabric, the place will be short. So let's plant it here. So let's measure. Let's now curve our measurements. We want to curve it. If you have an hip curve, you can use it. So here we have, use this one. Of course, people have different way of placing this. Just do anyone that works for you. Just please think how it works for you. I've been placing like this and it was working for me. So just suit yourself to anyone that's best. So that's a straight line first. After you should go. That's what you want to come. So does it. So yeah. Make sure it's not a sharp edge. Okay. So that's the basket. As you can see, it's looking like a skate. So we are dealing with the front, so still transfer it and get the back. So we are cutting the whole of this. We are cutting the whole of this. So there's another method for cutting the pencil skate. Maybe in our next class I will deal with that. The method is whereby you minus one from the front, then you add one to the back. That will be the next class. We'll deal with this. Now, a quick one. As a fashion designer, make sure the scissors you use to cut your pattern is not the same. Make sure the scissors you use to cut your pattern is not the same as the one you use to cut your clothes. It affects the scissors. It won't make it sharp again. So I use this one for my fabric, while I use this one for my pattern, like paper, or any other thing I need to cut. I use this for it. So we are cutting this. We got our front, we want to cut our back. Because this is a paper, we made it single. If it's your fabric, of course it will be double because you folded it, it will be double. Because this is a paper, they don't waste a paper, you need just a single pattern. So you transfer all this proportion. You transfer the proportion so you can get the exact thing you need. You transfer the proportion. Okay. So this is where the zip will be. And for our zip, we'll need 1 inch for our zip allowance. For our zip allowance, this is where your zip will be. So let's adjust it. Now with our fabric or our pattern. Let's just adjust it a bit. So we need just 1 inch. Okay. So now for this place, to make your zip rest well, to avoid any orange or something, as much as you are coming out by 1 inch here for your zip allowance, you will also, let me do that, everywhere here, you're adding 1 inch. 1 inch here, adding 1 inch extra. 1 inch extra. 1 inch extra for your zip allowance. You have a straight line. So I said as much as you've come out by 1 inch, you will still go in by ½ inch, yeah? Then you replace the ½ inch, yeah? Because by the time you want to sew your zip, you still sew with 1 inch here. So in order not to make your measurement short, you have to replace it here. This to make your zip, you see the shape to give you something like this. This to make your zip rest well and back. Even if it's a gown, this is the way you do it. To avoid any orange. If you see some zip, you see that they are swollen at the back. To avoid such, this is what you have to do. You can also come in by ½ inch to make your by ½ inch to make it rest well. I'm not doing that since I've already come in by 1.5 here. So you can decide to come in by ½ inch just to add this fitted style. But it's okay for what we're doing today. Okay, so let's make this our cuff. Okay, so we are cutting it out now. Remember I said you shouldn't use the scissors for your fabric to cut your pattern. So you cut your fabric, your pattern first. Okay. So these are our pattern. This is our front. We're folding this. And our front will be added to this place. And don't forget that's allowance. Let's just put that on the last edge so you don't forget. So the half length is on the waist of the person is 20. Let's say 28. That'll give us 3.5. You divide it by 8. That'll give us 3.5. So you measure your 3.5. That's for this. I'm doing is for your dart. Measure your 3.5. Then measure 1 inch. Measure 1 inch. Then measure your 3.5. Measure first. Okay. So you can measure for you too. Okay, this right now. That's it. So these are that. By the time we shrink this, come. cut.